What would the 2007 Formula 1 season look like if the top 5, that is Raikkonen, Massa, Hamilton, Alonso and Heidfeld, were not there? Yeah, welcome back to this series, finally. We kick off with Formula 1's traditional season opener, the Australian Grand Prix down in Melbourne. Everybody's favourite Pole, Robert Kubica, takes pole in his BMW Sauber, only to end his race with a retirement, so that's not exactly a brilliant start to the season for the Polish driver. Fisichella gets all the benefit though, because he ends up taking the win, leading home Nico Rosberg in P2, while Ralf Schumacher ends up taking P3. Round 2 takes F1 off to Malaysia, where the man that finished P2 last time is going to be starting P1 this time. It's Nico Rosberg getting pole position in his Williams car. However, like Kubica last time out, he also finds himself retiring after starting on pole. So, you know, starting on pole this year so far ain't seeming to be a great thing. And also, like last time, it's Giancarlo Fisichella who's getting the benefits of it all, and he's winning the Grand Prix for his second win of the year. P2 is going the way of Jarno Trulli, while P3 is being taken by the man that's just swept the backmarker championship. It's Heikki Kovalainen. Bahrain gives Robert Kubica his second pole position of the year. However, he does not retire this time. It actually ends up being a brilliant race for him, because the Polish driver gets his first Grand Prix victory this time out in the desert of Bahrain, crossing the finish line P1, leading home Jarno Trulli in P2, and Fisichella making it 3 podiums in a row to start off his season very, very strongly. And as F1 heads over to Barcelona to start the European season, Kubica continues his form from Bahrain in Spain, with his third pole in 4 races and his second win in a row. Bit of a rough couple of first races, but Kubica's coming into his own now, and the same can be said about David Coulthard after a difficult first few races of not scoring anything. He's getting P2 for Red Bull, while P3 is going to be Nico Rosberg. Up next is the track where qualifying means absolutely everything, which Giancarlo Fisichella takes prime opportunity of to stick it on pole and then get the win, because Monaco, and it's difficult to overtake there, so of course the pole sitter is going to win. Speaking of poles, Robert Kubica is finishing in P2, while Alex Wurz is in P3 for Williams to get his first podium of the year. But with 3 wins from the first 5 races, it's Fisichella leading the standings right now on 39 points, 11 ahead of Robert Kubica in second on 28. 21 points is Jarno Trulli, so it's a tiny bit spread out at the top at the moment in these early stages of the season. Well, I say that, but 3rd and 4th are tie actually on 21 points, because Heikki Kovalainen is also on 21, and then Nico Rosberg has 20 in 5th. Alex Wurz has 14 points in 6th, while 1 point back is Barrichello on 13, with the top 10 being rounded out by David Coulthard, Ralf Schumacher and Takuma Sato. In the Constructors, Renault have an easy lead to begin with on 60 points, to Williams on 34. Toyota currently sits on 29 in 3rd place, 4th place is 1 point back in his BMW Sauber on 28, while the top 5 is rounded out by Honda. 13 points is what Red Bull Racing are on in 6th place, while 7th is 8 points with Super Aguri, 7th place is Toro Rosso on 5, and then 9th place is Spiker, who have nothing. For round 6 is a quick pause in the European season, as Formula 1 heads over to North America for the Canadian Grand Prix. Pole position is going the way of Mark Webber to give Red Bull their first pole position in Formula 1, and I believe his first pole position in Formula 1. However, it doesn't even end up in a podium for the Australian driver, as he survives an incredibly hectic and carnage and crash-filled race to come home in P5. I mean, he was guaranteed to score points, because in fact, the point scorers are actually the only finishers of this race. Everybody else retires, Fisichella gets disqualified, and Alex Wurz takes his first win in Formula 1, giving Williams their first win of the year, ahead of Heikki Kovalainen in 2nd, and in 3rd place is going the way of Takuma Sato, getting Super Aguri on the podium. But due to his horrific crash, of course, Robert Kubica ends up missing the next race, and as a result of that, the Formula 1 grid is graced with this German guy named Sebastian Vettel, who actually ends up having a really good weekend, as he ends up finishing P4 on his debut. He scored points on debut anyway, but now he's scoring more points than he actually did. He's scoring 5. The win, though, is being taken by Heikki Kovalainen. What is it with that man winning crap on this channel these days? He did it from pole, and he's joined on the podium by Jarno Trulli and Mark Webber, clearly carrying his pole position momentum from Canada to the United States. He'll be hoping to continue it as F1 returns to Europe for the French Grand Prix, but is right back to form for Robert Kubica, who rejoins the grid after missing the last race. The pole starts on pole, and then he gets the P1 position at the end of the the race because he wins it. He's joined on the podium by Giancarlo Fisichella and Jenson Button getting his first podium of the year. And as F1 rocks up to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, the form just continues for Kubica. It's another pole position for his 5th of the season. He's on great form in qualifying, really. And it's a 4th win of the year as well for him. Fisichella and Kovalainen join him on the podium, so it's kind of usual suspects, really. And the European Grand Prix at the Nurburgring sees another pole position for Robert Kubica. Honestly, take a wild guess at who's gonna win the pole position award this year. I'll give you one guess. He's Polish. Doesn't quite work out for him in a race that ends up being a little damp, to word it one way. Maybe a slight understatement though, to be honest. It ends up in being P4 for him. The race win is actually taken by Mark Webber, who actually did in real life get his first win at the Nürburgring. However, it was actually in 2009, not 2007. But it's the first win for Red Bull Racing then, and a first win for Mark Webber. He's ahead of Alex Wirtz, who I think drove for Red Bull at one point, and David Coulthard making it a Red Bull 1-3. A brilliant day for Red Bull. It'll help him in the standings, but first of all, we'll go over the driver's standings, where Fisichella still leads on 60 points. He is 7 ahead of Robert Kubica on 53 points in second, and then Heikki Kovalainen is 2 back on 51 in third. So it is starting to close up a little bit more. The gaps have closed up, and they're probably just going to continue to close up as the season goes on. And you can see how it's closed up on the graph here, how it was a little bit more spread out our last check-in, but now at Europe it's a little bit more closed up than it was before. Hopefully that will continue to close up, and we'll just continue to get a really good battle as the season goes on. In 4th and 5th, you're going to find the Williams boys with Alex Wirtz on 36 points and then Nico Rosberg on 30, while the top 10 is then rounded out by Jarno Trulli, Mark Webber, Rubens Barrichello, David Coulthard, and then Ralf Schumacher. In the team's title, Renault continue to lead the way. They're on 111 points to Williams on 66 and then BMW Sauber on 57. Only 1 point separates the battle for 4th place currently, with Toyota on 46 points, and Red Bull, after having a couple of strong races, find themselves on 45 points in 5th. 6th place is Honda on 39 points, while 7th is Super Aguri on 19, Toro Rosso are still on 5, and Spiker are still on nothing. So as I throw in a reminder to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video and you haven't done so already, and point out the rest of this massive series, we move to the Hungarian Grand Prix, which sees Nico Rosberg get his 2nd pole position of the year, which ends up being P3 for him at the end of the Grand Prix. So a solid race for the Williams driver to get his first podium since Barcelona, but his race isn't quite as good as Robert Kubica, who goes on to win the damn thing for the 5th time this season. In between the pair is Ralf Schumacher's Toyota, sitting in 2nd place come the checkered flag, before F1 heads on over to Turkey, which sees Robert Kubica taking pole position again, returning to his form in qualifying. However, like Nico Rosberg last time out, that ends up being a P3 finish for him, as the win gets taken by Heikki Kovalainen for the 2nd time this season. And Fisichella finishing in 4th, Rosberg taking 2nd by the way. That puts Kovalainen and Fisichella tie on points in the championship on 66 points, while Robert Kubica now leads the way on 69. It's closed right up. And as we head to Italy, Robert Kubica is going to be extending that gap out. Another pole position turns into another race victory for him. Well, it's another P2 for Nico Rosberg, getting his 3rd podium in a row, and then P3 is Heikki Kovalainen getting another podium this season. Spreads things out a little bit more in the championship, gives Kubica a little bit of a decent lead, I'd say decent, only 7 points, but it's a lead nonetheless, while Fisichella is slowly dropping back a little bit. He's now on 67 points, so now 12 back from the championship lead. Belgium marks the end of the European season, and it gives Robert Kubica yet another pole position, but it's only P4 for him at the end of the Grand Prix, not even a podium. The podium instead is going the way of Nico Rosberg in 1st place after having some good results this year, some strong drives, a couple pole positions. He is finally getting a P1 position at the end of a Grand Prix. His former teammate Mark Webber is sitting in 2nd place, while 3rd place is, the triple back marker champion Heikki Kovalainen. He'll be looking to build on that momentum in Japan to close further up to Kubica in the championship. And he doesn't get pole position in qualifying. That goes the way of the last time out's winner Nico Rosberg, who ends up retiring from the race in what ends up being a chaotic Grand Prix. The P1 award is going the way of Heikki Kovalainen, taking the race victory ahead of Coulthard getting his 3rd podium of the season, and Fisichella joining them on the podium as well. Well, it's only P4 for Kubica, and that has allowed Kovalainen to close up to just 1 point behind the Polish driver. 89 points, playing 88 with only 2 rounds left. We are on for a grandstand finish to this season. And what that 1-3 has also done is actually secured Renault the Constructors' Championship, which hasn't really been, I haven't mentioned it that much, it's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but they could win the championship coming into this race, and they did. Constructors Champions for the 3rd time in a row for Renault it will be. However, given they had both cars up there, it was kind of gonna happen. As for the Drivers' Championship, Kubica can wrap it up in China though. The Chinese Grand Prix, he can wrap it up one race early, so long as the gap is, 11 points or more, so basically he would need to win and then hope Kovalainen doesn't score anything. It's definitely possible, but not exactly easy. And for Kubica, a DNF comes at quite possibly the worst time it could have. A DNF at the end of the season when you're trying to win a championship is not what you want, but unfortunately for the Pole, that's what's happened to him. And even more unfortunately for him, Kovalainen finishes in 5th place to score 4 points. So that's him losing the championship lead, but at least it's not a race win. The win is actually going the way of Sebastian Vettel, who returned to the grid in Hungary, giving Toro Rosso their first win and scoring his first win in his rookie season. He's joined on the podium by future title rival Jenson Button and Vitantonio Liuzzi, his teammate, to give Toro Rosso a 1-3 finish. That team has done bugger all year, but now they've just scored a 1-3. What a finish for him. Meanwhile, the pole position went the way of David Coulthard, who finishes in P4, just ahead of Kovalainen, who now leads the championship. I'll come back to the Drivers' Championship fight in a second though. First, let's look at the Constructors. Do this the other way around. The title is already wrapped up with Renault 167 points. Williams are also, they're not quite secure in second, but they pretty much are. They're on 102, BMW Sauber are on 94, but given Williams have 2 cars and Sauber has 1, it would take a lot for Sauber to beat Williams to 2nd place. 4th place is basically secure, Red Bull on 82 points, while Toyota are currently on 5th place on 60 points, 8 points ahead of Honda, so there's a bit of a Japanese battle going on for 5th place right now. Toro Rosso, Super Aguri and Spiker, who finally scored points, are in 7th, 8th and 9th, and there's basically nothing going on there. Super Aguri, if they have a really good weekend, could beat Sauber, but we'll see if that happens. In the Drivers' Championship, meanwhile, there is a hell of a scrap going on currently for 6th place. Currently in 6th place is Alex Wirtz on 40 points, while 7th and 8th are currently tied on 37 points as Jarno Trulli and David Coulthard, while 9th is Ralf Schumacher on 31, Jenson Button's also on 10th and on 31 and 10th, and then Barrichello is on 29 and 11th. So I make that 11 points separating several positions. Ralf Schumacher cannot get 6th, but he's in the battle for 7th at the very least. There's a lot going on in the midfield, as there normally is. The gaps are very small there. That cannot be said for 4th and 5th. 4th and 5th are basically secure, though they are secure really. Mark Webber's on 45 points, Nico Rosberg is definitely secure on 62 points in 4th, he's gonna finish 3rd. Fisichella is gonna finish in 3rd as well. Nico Rosberg is secure though, he's gonna finish in 4th. Fisichella is secure as well, he's gonna finish in 3rd. The Drivers' Championship though is still to be decided. Robert Kubica was leading the championship, he took the lead in Turkey, but he's lost it right at the end here, heading into the final round of the season. Heikki Kovalainen now leads the way on 92 points, 3 ahead of Robert Kubica on 89. So 3 points separating them, it's in Kovalainen's favour in the points. And to win the championship, Kubica needs to outscore Kovalainen by 4 points or more. If Kovalainen finishes 2nd, he wins the championship, no matter where Kubica finishes, even if Kubica wins. So, is Heikki Kovalainen going to continue this run of winning crap on this channel, or is everybody's favourite Polish driver gonna put a stop to it and gonna win the championship? Let's find out as we head to the Brazilian Grand Prix for the season finale. Mark Webber ends up taking pole position in qualifying, but much like the first race of the season, where the pole sitter retired, the pole sitter retires in the final race of the season as well. And the man winning the race isn't one of the guys in for the championship, it's Nico Rosberg actually taking his 2nd win of the year to just really nail in that 4th place for him. He wasn't going to finish any higher than 4th, but he's ending his season off brilliantly with a race win, ahead of Jarno Trulli finishing in 3rd place to come very close to passing Mark Webber, but he just falls short. As does David Coulthard, who finishes in 4th, and Ralf Schumacher does manage to drag his way into the top 10 with a 6th place finish, while Sato does give Super Aguri a couple more points to finish off their season, however is not enough to pass Toro Rosso, who also scored points, and Nakajima's 5th place also means that Williams are nailed on for that 2nd place. That just leaves 2nd place, and as I said, if Kovalainen finishes in 2nd, he wins the championship no matter what. Unfortunately for the Finn though, the guy finishing in 2nd place is Robert Kubica, taking 2nd place, and with it the 8 points he needs to pass Kovalainen and take the championship victory, becoming Poland's 1st ever F1 world champion, Sauber's 1st ever F1 world champion. He DNF'd right when you didn't want to have a DNF, but he managed to save it, and he's world champion. Final standings then, Robert Kubica is the world champion on 97 points, 5 points ahead of Heikki Kovalainen, who finishes on 92, and Fisichella rounds out the top 3 on 75. Nico Rosberg and Mark Webber, the former Williams teammates in 2006, close out the top 5 on 72 and 45 respectively, while in the battle for 6th place and all that, it was Jarno Trulli who finished in 6th on 43 points, just 1 ahead of David Coulthard, who finishes off his penultimate season in Formula 1 on 42 points, and Alex Wurz ends on 40. Ralf Schumacher and Jenson Button round out the top 10 on 34 and 31 points respectively, while Rubens Barrichello is on 29 points in 11th. Sebastian Vettel came in halfway through the season and ended up driving for 2 different teams, but he ends on 15 points, tied with Takuma Sato, but Vettel is ahead on countback. Liuzzi is the next, Toro Rosso in the lineup on 12 points. Meanwhile, Anthony Davidson scored 6 points. Scott Speed, who got dropped early in the year, only scored 5. Adrian Sutil scored 4 points for Biker. Nakajima scored 4 points right at the end for Williams. And then Albers, Winkelhock, and Yamamoto all scored nothing. In the team's title, it's Renault winning out on 167 points to Williams on 116. Renault really dominated this Constructors' Championship. BMW Sauber score 102 points in the end to finish in 3rd place, while 4th and 5th is Red Bull and Toyota on 87 and 77 respectively, beating out Honda, who finish on 60 points in 6th. Toro Rosso finish in 7th on 27 points, while Super Aguri finish on 21 in 8th, and then Spiker only scored 4 points all year. For the end of season stats, the most wins were taken by Robert Kubica with 6, Heikki Kovalainen had 3, Fisichella also took 3, Rosberg had 2 wins, and 1 win was taken by Webber, 1 by Wurz, and 1 by Vettel. For podiums, the most podiums also went away the champion with 8 podiums this season. Kovalainen, Fisichella, and Rosberg all had 7 each, Trulli took 4, 3 podiums were all taken by Webber, Coulthard, and Wurz, 2 by Ralf Schumacher, 2 by Jenson Button, 1 by Vettel, and 1 by Sato. And then for pole positions, again it was Robert Kubica taking the most with 9 pole positions, and the next closest was Rosberg with 3. Webber had 2, and then Kovalainen, Fisichella, and Coulthard all had 1 each. And with that, 2007 without the top 5 is at its end. Robert Kubica, the man who in June this year became the first Polish driver to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, wins the Formula 1 World Championship in this series. Renault are Constructors Champions, and I'm gonna leave this one here. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.